This is Tom Salemi. I am here with Sonia Valdes, Vice President for Claims at Medmarc. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us on FOMO.
Thank you, Tom.
So we're going to unpack an important issue today. We're going to look at supply chain and all the issues that are related to that. Give us, though, a sense, give our listeners a sense where Medmarc sort of fits into helping MedTech clients with supply chain issues. What is your role in all of that?
Sure. Medmarc was created in 1979 by companies who had trouble getting insurance. They were medical device companies. And so they created Medmarc to handle their product liability needs. And so we have grown throughout the years, now underwrite any type of medical device, from the most serious to the most innocuous. We underwrite clinical trials, drug companies, generics, over the counter. The entire array of life sciences companies are our clients. Supply chain issues are very important.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a global economy. Manufacturing for our medical devices and our generics companies often take place overseas. So some of the geopolitical situations that we are seeing now have a tremendous effect on their ability to produce their products.
So give us a sense then from Medmarc's perspective of sort of the state of supply chain. We obviously read a lot in the papers and are talking to professionals out there who are dealing with challenges firsthand. There is a lot going on and a lot of things that need to be overcome. What are you seeing as someone who's in touch with the medical device industry as closely as you are?
Very, very much concerned over where this manufacturing is going to take place. Over 90 countries are facing tariffs from the current administration, with China having the highest rate of tariffs. We have many contract manufacturers in China who have the sophistication and have the experience and relationship with us over the years. We're going to have to probably move those manufacturing facilities to other places, and that is not going to be cheap or easy. The whole goal of the current tariff situation is to move manufacturing back to this country. That will take, being very ambitious, 3 to 5 years and a lot of money. And it's going to be a lot of money in terms of startups, but also American labor is going to be much more expensive than the labor in these other countries that we've used to make our products.
As an insurer of medical devices and a protector of medical device companies, what challenges is Medmarc seeing specifically as related to supply chain?
Well, what we see in my world every day are product defect cases. And so the more hands that touch your product, the more chance there is for risk. The risk being a defect in your product. When you shift suppliers, it's not that easy to make the product that you want necessarily. It takes quite a bit of startup to learn what the product should be and how it should come out. And so we are very concerned about our products lacking the quality control that we have seen in the past, and also the shortages of these particular products. Shifting from one supplier to the other takes time. And so it's not just the whole product, it's also component parts and raw materials that need to be replaced. And raw materials are particularly important. You can't shift raw materials that quickly. The other aspect of it, if you shift raw materials, looking at it from the life sciences, the FDA doesn't go in and check raw materials manufacturers. So you better make sure that they are compliant, that they are not contaminated. And that is not an easy thing to start up, to make sure.
Interesting. I mean, we hear the conversations and the hopes, or at least the objectives of moving manufacturing, I guess, elastically, or at least near our shores. You have, I think, probably a closer perspective than a lot of people, and all the challenges that may come with the objective of the tariffs. And you're talking again to a lot of medtech companies. Do you see them having plans to do some of this onshoring? Do you see them sort of waiting and kind of throwing their hands up at this point? What's the feel of the industry, if you don't mind sharing that?
Sure. I will start off by saying we are definitely in a global economy, and I want to give you an example of what I
Sure.
mean. I had a horrible death case involving a child. It involved an ambu bag that didn't work the way it was supposed to. And this was about 10 years ago. The material for the ambu bag was some kind of rubber from Malaysia. It was principally manufactured in China and assembled in Latin America
Mm,
for sale in the United States. And what happened was one of the valves to be used was not made correctly, and therefore this particular child was not getting the air that he needed because he had an obstruction as a result of a tonsillitis that went bad, and so the child died.
mm.
So where did the mistake come in? Did it come in at where the Chinese were manufacturing it, or did it come into Latin America assembly for use in this country? So tracking these product defects is going to be a big concern for the future as we continue these global manufacturing practices.
And is that something that you're hearing from clients as well? Are they confident that they're coming up with plans that will, without naming names, but just broadly, plans that will help meet these objectives, or is there sort of a broader uncertainty as to how we'll be able to meet those objectives?
I think is going to be uncertainty.
Mhm.
The cost of reshoring these companies that have done most of their manufacturing overseas. I read an estimate the other day is going to be $1.2 trillion,
Wow.
which will mostly to consumers. About 70% of that $1.2 trillion is going to come out of the consumer pockets as high prices. So I think it's going to come back to this country in some form. And I think ultimately you're looking at safer products. Although I will say that the future of manufacturing is going to be AI, robotization,
Mhm.
and digitalization. And that is going to actually lower the cost of manufacturing of these medical devices.
How do you view the additions of these technologies? Is this still, do you see hope that it's going to make things safer and more predictable to manufacture, or does new technology come with new uncertainty?
New technology always comes with new uncertainty, but I do believe that the AI, the data will optimize productivity. And you know what we're working towards in the manufacturing is virtual factories here in
Mhm.
the United States because it's going to be an expensive solution coming back to manufacturing this thing. Some companies are not going to do it. What they're going to do is try and optimize processes overseas using AI. For example, building a virtual manufacturing facility here in the United States to control what's going on in the overseas plant.
Mm.
And that gives me great hope because you can run data to suggest, for example, AI can tell you when a particular product needs maintenance. It could tell you when a product is conforming to the way it's supposed to be. And then there are robots that will ultimately be performing the more dangerous jobs in these manufacturing facilities.
So, looking forward, how do you see things playing out in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you see our medical device manufacturing world looking like?
I see tremendous capital investments in AI, and a lot of robotization, digitalization processes and applications in order to optimize productivity.
Interesting, and I would think that would be accelerated by this sort of tumultuous change to the manufacturing. If folks are required to build new, then they're probably going to these. They're going to skip a generation of plants and build the newest type of plant they can. Do you see that sort of kind of leapfrogging, like almost a rebuilding of a city that has been destroyed by some form or fashion? That we're going to have newer technologies and newer infrastructure.
Right. I mean, this is maybe an unintended benefit of
Hmm.
the situation. We're going to have uncertainty. We're going to have high costs. We're going to have product shortages. There's no way around it until we catch up and we are able to build these facilities to meet our needs.
What are some other costs associated with moving suppliers, moving manufacturing, creating that uncertainty? What else could impact the medical device industry going forward?
Well, we've talked about capital costs, putting these new suppliers and building these new factories and overseeing, embedding them and certifying them. But not doing this has a huge price in terms of product liability litigation. If your products do not meet the standard, you're looking at becoming a target in product liability litigation. Let's just say your product is short a couple of, and therefore doesn't fit the way it's supposed to for an implantation, or their product is contaminated, doesn't have the right amount of active pharmaceutical ingredient. What happens is you will become a target in American litigation,
Hmm.
and that could really hurt your bottom line even more than these capital costs.
So these moves that need to be made to change suppliers, to change location of manufacturing, each needs to be done very deliberately and carefully, I would imagine, because anything you do without the proper due diligence certainly exposes you if something goes wrong down the line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are things that, our companies can do. They can contractually make sure that the indemnification clauses are very strong in their favor.
Hmm.
They can make sure that these companies that they are using, their new companies that they're using, have very solid insurance profiles and that you're not required to pick up anything that they do wrong. You just do not want to become a target in litigation in this country because of the current outlook on our American companies are looked as the bad guys.
Fascinating. We follow headlines, we follow big trends, but it's so helpful to hear from folks on the ground who are talking with medtechs and really looking at the impact of this news. Sonia Valdes, thanks for joining us on FOMO.
Thank you, Tom.